All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Samson. I am 20 years old, and for the last just over 6 years, I have been running different businesses online. And in this video, I'm going to be covering completely off the dome. This is raw, unfiltered, my perspective on how to run a successful business in 2025 and what I have learned from the last 6 years of trial and error. Okay. So, for reference, when I was 14, I started my first business. It was over lockdown, and I began looking into drop shipping. Big surprise, right? It's the first thing I found online. And off of doing that, I learned a few things, but obviously got nowhere. I learned web design. I learned how to run paid ads. I learned how to actually build, write copy, write my first copy and stuff like that. Then, after no success with that, I proceeded to try theme pages. There was a craze at the time when I was 15. So I basically just tried to build a following on social media around a specific theme. And then the goal was to sell either a digital product or sell shout outs. I started a travel one with the idea to promote hotels and stuff like that. Did well, managed to learn consistency and managed to learn how to edit and actually post content regularly. And I built decent followings, 10, 15K on a couple Instagram pages. Don't get me wrong, I didn't make any money off them really. The most I ever made was maybe $100 here and there for a promotion or something, but nothing sustainable. And likewise, I ran a community around trading when I was a little bit younger as well, which I built off the back of the theme pages. I had one around sort of finance and crypto, and I built a community around that, tried to charge for that as well. Again, didn't do very well. And what I have learned over the last 5 years, and for reference, I eventually found, my first success at about 16, 17 with an agency. I signed my first client, which was a company I used to work for. They started paying me regularly to manage their socials, found a few more companies I could do it for, and throughout sixth form, I was making pretty decent money, simply just doing that for a few companies. Long story short, that ended up crumbling to the ground because these guys couldn't see the long-term vision of social media. The results weren't immediate. The return on investment was little. And who were they to trust a 16-year-old when he said, just give it some time? Okay. So that didn't take me where I wanted to go, but taught me a lot, and I did, pretty well with it considering my age. And then the last, 3 years, I've been immersed in software, AI, and, still running an agency, but it is around custom software build-outs, AI infrastructure, and helping companies actually set up their foundations to scale from. That I have, proud to say, I found success in. I have reached some of my first goals. You can probably guess what they are because they're the most common goals online. And I remember hitting that and thinking, wow, I've made it. But boy, am I so far from where I want to be. What I want to say is that over the last 5 years, I think one of the things I've noticed that's quite a controversial opinion is that just doing more doesn't actually mean a lot. Okay. And just working harder doesn't really mean a lot, because believe me, there was times that I was working non-stop trying to, like when I was 17, I was trying to make this agency work. I was working relentlessly, constantly copying, pasting the same outreach message, reaching as many people as I could, sending as many emails as I could, figuring out ways to automate it, which is eventually what led me down the sort of software and AI rabbit hole. But it didn't take me where I wanted to go, and it wasn't for a lack of effort. So there's this sort of hustle culture online that tells you just work harder, work harder, work harder. And for reference, the last year and a half, 2 years, I've gone to Thailand, Japan, Italy, Amsterdam, Prague, Budapest, France, Germany, Spain, and I'm probably missing a few. The point is that I've traveled a lot, and that's what I've wanted to do, okay? And I've made more in the last 2 months than I made probably in my entire first 2-3 businesses. Okay, that entire time period, I've made more in the last 2 months, and yet arguably I've done considerably less. Okay, I have not worked constantly 18-hour days. I'm talking probably on average around 6 hours a day on the business. When I've been on holiday, genuinely just a couple hours or an hour here and there to keep things pushing. Okay, and what that should show you is that your output isn't always correlated to your input, and the efficiency you work at doesn't correlate with how hard you try. Okay, so you need to get this idea out of your head that you can just work harder and try harder and want it more, and that's going to propel you to success. Because I did that for years, and all it led me to feel was miserable and feel like I was wasting my time, and felt like This is how a lot of people end up making money nowadays, is capitalizing on the fact that there's a lot of people who work ridiculously hard, don't see the result, and therefore they believe there's this piece of information that they're missing, or there's some sort of system that if they just buy, it's going to solve all their problems. And it's not the case, because they think they've tried everything they could and they've worked so hard. Why are they not seeing the result? It must mean that this person they've seen online must have this secret knowledge. And it's always this idea of secret knowledge that apparently is what you need to be successful in business. And I promise you it's not. Okay, the one thing that I've seen drive the most success is when I started focusing on the things that I was good at and actually being able to step back. And the first thing you need to do to actually be able to do this is have clarity on how your business works and understand what your business actually is, what you do, who you help, and how you actually operate, how you grow, how you generate traffic, how you generate sales, and how you fulfill for customers, and then what your operations look like. Go back down to the core principles: marketing, sales, fulfillment, and operations. And once you have an idea of what your business actually does, you have to look at it. I'm realizing as I'm saying this, I'm basically regurgitating the 80-20 rule, but what you realize is that 99% of what you're doing doesn't matter. And that's what I did in my first few businesses, is I tried all these different things. I worked on tons of different things every day because I thought at least one of them would matter, but 90% of them didn't. So a lot of the time you can forget almost everything up until you've got customers and you're making good money, because ideally, normally there's just that one thing, that 20% that actually makes you money. And you have to look at my business. You have to look at your business as a whole and go, okay, how do we actually make money? What is the thing that we've done that has resulted in people paying us? What is that actual specific thing? How did I reach them? How did I make them want to pay me? And what did I do once they did? That, if you boil it down to that core thing and you focus on that, that's how you start making money. And more so, it's also about focusing on what you enjoy. And I've noticed this, that when you work constantly on things that you're forcing yourself, because I used to just force myself. I hated it. I didn't want to do it. And I procrastinated it. And then I'd just be like, okay, come on, let me just force myself to work. But by doing that, you eventually hit a block and you eventually give up, because regardless in business, there's so many different components that you have to think about. And a lot of them are very hard. They're difficult, and there aren't easy answers and easy solutions. Like when your reply rate isn't matching what it should be, or your conversion rate on sales calls isn't matching what you want it to be, and you're not reaching those targets, there isn't just a simple quick fix you can do. It's not always as easy as like, oh, I just need to do this and then it increases, right? It's difficult and it takes a lot of thinking and consideration. There's a lot of components to it. But if you're constantly, as a founder, working on the things that you don't enjoy and forcing yourself to do things that you don't enjoy, eventually you will give up and you'll try something else, which will stop you ever persevering and reaching the goals and reaching the thing that actually is going to make the big difference. And I think one of the things that has massively made a difference for me is actually working on the things that I enjoy and the things that I'm actually passionate about, because regardless of how I feel, working on those things doesn't feel like a chore, and I don't have to force myself to do it, and it doesn't feel like I'm going against my own willpower. It's very easy to find motivation when it's something that you enjoy. And if you can design your business in a way that it's optimized for your time being spent on that. For me, personally, my favorite things to work on are recording content like this. So public speaking, being able to create the actual strategy of the business and the bigger picture, not focusing on the micro things, but actually looking at the wider idea and what sort of different avenues can I take it down the line. And then coming up, so it's ideation, strategy, and public speaking. Those are the three for me. And being able to design my business in a way and build systems and hire people that optimize for that, I think that's the number one thing that I think I can contribute to the success I've had, which in the grand scheme of things is minimal, but in my small world and from, the background I've come from and how long I've been trying and putting in work to make it happen, that's the biggest change for me. I think that's what's yielded the biggest result is focusing my time on the things I enjoy and the things that I actually can see myself working on in the long term, because it makes it a lot easier to work towards that vision when you don't feel like as you grow you're just going to end up doing more of the shit that you don't like. Okay, you have this idea of, okay, the more I grow, I'm going to be able to do more of what I love, and what I love is going to have a bigger impact. Okay, at least that's how I see it personally. And I just think a lot of founders don't really think that way anymore. They're so focused on profit and optimization that they don't optimize for their self. They don't optimize for what they started the business for, which for me has always been the goal. It's like, okay, how can I set things up in a way that I can do more of what I love and live more of the life that I see as the dream? Okay, that's why I started a business. I can't say the same for everyone, but that is my unique perspective on how to find fulfillment, at least in running the business, because you're never going to enjoy something that you have to force yourself to do. Whereas if you can scale what you enjoy and design things in a way and build systems and use software to remove the need for you to do every little thing, especially the stuff that you don't enjoy, then I personally think you're going to have a happier life. You're going to want to grow the business more because you have that incentive, and it's just overall going to provide you more fulfillment, more joy, and more time to spend on the things that you enjoy. And that is my unique 20-year-old perspective. Call it naive, but it's what's worked for me, and I highly recommend anyone, any founder who is finding themselves stuck in the same place doing stuff that they don't like, even though they've, on paper built a successful business. If it's not successful for you and your goals and your purpose, then is it really successful, or have you just made a machine that, yes, it makes money, but it also makes your life a misery? So don't get caught in that trap. Sometimes take a step back. If you're in that position, take a step back and look at the things that you're doing and think, okay, how can I remove myself and go back to what I love and what I started this business for? Because for me, at least, that has always kept me motivated, kept me driven, and really makes me confident in the next 5-10 years that I'm going to spend in business. But that's enough. This was all unscripted, just thoughts that I've had, and I thought it might be useful to share my experience over the last 6 years, because I've learned a lot from it, and hopefully you guys can learn at least one thing from it too. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one.